as we get the asset in hand, take it forward, get it to a milestone or inflection point, we're going to be looking to continuing to advance that, potentially continuing to expand opportunities for that asset or bringing in other additional assets. We will continue to engage with the institutional investor community, building out, our shareholder base as we grow the company. And, our commitment will be on execution, creating value for shareholders and creating value for patients by developing innovative and highly differentiated medicines.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us for our latest Virtual Investor What This Means segment. Today, we are featuring CNS Pharmaceuticals. My name is Janine Thomas. I am CEO of JTCIR, and I will be the moderator. I am very pleased to be joined by Steve O'Loughlin. He is Chief Financial Officer of the company. Great to have you on, Steve.
Great to be here, Janine. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're very excited to showcase CNS Pharmaceuticals today. And before we get started, I just want to remind our audience that CNS Pharmaceuticals is publicly listed on NASDAQ and trades under the ticker CNSP. And during today's discussion, the company will be making forward-looking statements. And I encourage everyone to view the company's latest SEC filings on their website at cnspharma.com for the latest information. All right, Steve, we are going to dive right in. My first question is, many biotech companies struggle to raise capital after a strategic reset, so especially without a lead active asset already in the clinic. What do you think enabled CNS Pharmaceuticals to successfully complete an oversubscribed $22.5 million financing in this unique environment?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do think this is a unique environment in the biotech capital markets right now. One of the kind of biggest takeaways that I've had from my time in the industry is people make all the difference. And if you think about CNS Pharmaceuticals, this is a new team that has come together this year. So, Rami Levine, our CEO, joined January 1st. He undertook a strategic evaluation process and simultaneously recruited a new team to come together, which included myself, but also Chief Medical Officer, Chief Technology Officer, and Chief Business Officer, all of which, we started together in early March. And then shortly thereafter, on March 11th, we announced our new corporate strategy. So I feel like CNS came together with a new team. We all brought really strong experiences, very relevant experiences, and brought that energy and enthusiasm all coming together at the same time. And I think through that, we built a lot of momentum. And what we demonstrated, starting with Rami joining, was a focus on execution that I think investors, really felt. I think they really appreciated it. So when we started to approach the market, we knew that this was a new team with a new strategy and that we were focused on getting a new asset in hand. So we knew that this was not necessarily going to be a story that would resonate with all investors. So we really focused on a curated list of investors that we felt could participate in this. And we really looked at this as an opportunity for them to partner with us. So I think, the people coming together, our rapid execution, our new corporate strategy, and then focusing on investors that could partner with us now, all kind of came together with a lot of momentum. And, our energy, our enthusiasm, our commitment, I think, was palpable. And I believe that's what allowed us to complete the oversubscribed financing in about 4 months, since Rami joined at the beginning of the year, and about 2 months since the rest of the team came together. So really excited to have that behind us and very much looking forward to continuing to execute.
Absolutely. And this is nothing short of impressive. So congratulations on that. And, what a powerful step in the strategy. Steve, this financing appears to be more than just a balance sheet event. It seems like a validation of the company's acquisition driven strategy that you just mentioned. So, what feedback did you receive from institutional investors during this process that gave you confidence you were on the right path?
Yeah. I think again, we were introducing an entirely new team. We were introducing a strategic pivot. CNS Pharmaceuticals had historically been focused singularly on glioblastoma with two legacy assets. And, we announced that we would be not prioritizing those going forward. We would be seeking to out-license those. I think what we did as part of our strategic kind of pivot and the reset was we used data driven analysis to identify opportunities with high unmet needs that represented high growth opportunities. So, neurology and oncology. And we put those out there as kind of our areas of focus. Again, our team has relevant experience in those therapeutic areas. And we believe that the challenges that the biotech market has faced over the last couple of years has created an ideal opportunity to find assets that are perhaps being misvalued or overlooked or have been deprioritized and need a team that can take them forward and execute their development, make sure that they're properly capitalized, and create a cohesive and compelling public equity story. And I think the investors recognized that that opportunity does exist. I think we were able to convey a profile for an asset or assets that we would like to be able to acquire or in license. So, looking at something that has plausible biological rationale, a near term milestone event, large, attractive commercial opportunities, and that through our diligence process, our team, leveraging our experiences, would be simultaneously creating the clinical development plan, the regulatory strategy, so that we could execute on the asset's development right away as soon as we have it in hand. And again, that kind of speaks to how this team has come together and how we would like to execute. We really want to be execution focused, data driven in what we do, and really committed to bringing medicines or drug candidates to patients who need them critically.
Well, it sounds like you've just created a clean slate and almost are starting from scratch with like the biotech value creation playbook. This transaction also appears to significantly strengthen CNS Pharmaceuticals' ability to pursue transformational opportunities. So, how should shareholders think about the strategic value created by this raise?
Yeah, absolutely. If I think about the company, just prior to the raise, so had a very low market cap at the time, single digit millions, similar cash position. This capital raise, this financing, as you mentioned, it's not just the balance sheet strengthening event. This is truly enabling. With the 22.5 million in capital, we are very confident that will give us the ability to in license or acquire a very compelling asset or assets. And then additionally, beyond that, give us the opportunity to advance that asset to a near term clinical milestone, whether that be delivering clinical data or um, you know, generating some kind of data that uncovers or retires any risk that there might be associated with the asset, and essentially reset the valuation. So we think that's really what the opportunity here is. It's a ability to get behind an experienced leadership team who now has the capital to get an asset and bring it forward, and then beyond that, shape its future development in a very meaningful way. There's been a number of notable examples of late of companies that have successfully pivoted by in licensing a new asset, and they can in those opportunities you see companies completely reset their valuation, completely change perception amongst investors and the street more broadly. And given where we started in our valuation, we think that this really has the potential for venture-like returns, but in the public equity space. And we think that that is compelling to the investors who participated, but will continue to be compelling to investors as we go forward.
Excellent. So, Steve, no, this financing was oversubscribed, as we had talked about, and it included participation from widely recognized, fundamental, healthcare focused institutional investors. So, how important is institutional support as CNS Pharmaceuticals executes this next phase of growth? And as we got on this discussion, before we kind of hit the go button, you had some interesting and compelling news to share about this raise. So, I'd love for you to share that with your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this financing, like all or most financings, evolved as we were executing the deal. And, we had originally gone out with a target in mind that we felt would be sufficient to allow us to get an asset in hand. But as we, started interacting with investors, the interest started to expand, and we ended up bringing in the 22.5 million, and it was very oversubscribed. We were looking at some of the recent capital markets data recently, and one of the things that we saw was year to date, our pipe financing was the highest performing pipe transaction that's been done year to date. So that's something that the team obviously took note of. It's something that we're proud of. But again, I think it speaks to the opportunity, which there's a very strong team that came together with a very clear vision, a commitment to executing and to creating value. And we checked the box by bringing in some really strong investors who we view as partners to us going forward. Very notable, well-known investors, including some of the top performing funds in the biotech sector. Um, One thing I will also add is, during the financing process, there were several investors who we spoke to who just said, look, right now, our fund can't invest, whether it be market cap or liquidity or the fact that we did not yet have an asset in hand. But a lot of funds said, look, we want to stay close. We want to be updated. We will keep you in mind with any assets that we come across that we think might be interesting. Similarly, please, feel free to share any thoughts you might have or talk about therapeutic areas as you're starting to, triage and diligence assets. So we feel like in the short amount of time, our team has built some very valuable relationships. And yeah, going forward, institutional investor interest and support is going to be critical. As we get the asset in hand, take it forward, get it to a milestone or inflection point, we're going to be looking to continuing to advance that, potentially continuing to expand opportunities for that asset or bringing in other additional assets. So, we will continue to engage with the institutional investor community, building out, our shareholder base as we grow the company. And, our commitment will be on execution, creating value for shareholders and creating value for patients by developing innovative and highly differentiated medicines.
And Steve, this is proven execution, proven momentum building, and this is just the beginning. So very exciting. All right, this is a what this means segment, so I'm going to end with this last question. So stepping back a little bit, when investors look at the successful financing, the insider buying, which I want you to comment on, and the strategic pivot underway, What do you ultimately want them to understand about where CNS Pharmaceuticals is headed and what this moment means for the company's future?
Yeah, like you said, I think this is just the beginning, right? This team came together only a few months ago with a lot of energy and enthusiasm and a clear goal in mind. And something that we say internally is, we're going to win. Um, so this financing it's an important milestone. It's an important achievement, but our work is just getting started, and our energy and enthusiasm has only grown as a result of that. But what this capital does do is it enables us. It enables us to identify and acquire the asset that we believe will meet all of our metrics and the profile for which we're seeking. It will allow us to start to advance that asset and really, um, commence the strategic pivot. And then ultimately, when we, complete a transformational financing to further advance that asset, at that point, I think we will feel that, the strategic pivot has been completed. Um, so there's a very motivated and committed team here. And yeah, as you noted, the chair of our board, recently made some stock purchases in the open market, which I think shows her commitment and enthusiasm for the opportunity. And yeah, we're all just very excited and think that we have all come together at the right time with the right experiences, with the right skill sets, and we have the team and now the resources to execute.
Well, this is certainly an exciting time for CNS Pharmaceuticals. And, with the momentum that you are building, your scorecard, you're checking so many boxes. And as you said, it's just the beginning. So we definitely want to have you back, want to follow your progress. I know it's going to be an exciting time for investors to follow. With that, this concludes our virtual investor What This Means segment featuring CNS Pharmaceuticals. I'd like to extend a huge thank you to Steve O'Loughlin for joining us today. I'd also like to thank our audience for your time and attention. As a reminder, CNS Pharmaceutical trades on NASDAQ under the ticker CNSP. And if you like what you saw today, I encourage you to visit cnspharma.com for more information on the company and to sign up to follow the company to receive their alerts, as well as follow their social channels to stay current on the latest information. And you can also visit virtualinvestorco.com for a replay of today's event, as well as our latest segments and events calendar. Steve, such a pleasure having you on. Can't wait to have you back to follow your progress. And I want to wish everyone a great rest of your day.